Coming up on Carib Nation, an encounter with Haiti, notes of a special advisor. My conversation with the author, Ambassador Reginald Dumas of Trinidad and Tobago. He served as special advisor to UN Secretary General Kofi Annan after the departure of President Aristide from Haiti in February 2004. This book is described as highly readable, incisive, unique, and important, a bold and unrivaled look behind the scenes. Reginald Dumas has been described as a veteran diplomat who draws on his decades of accumulated experience to vividly recount the events of 2004 and give us a clear-eyed and sentimental, unbiased gaze at all sides of the beleaguered nation of Haiti, nation of gifted and resourceful people. Stay tuned for what I'm sure will be a fascinating conversation with Ambassador Reginald Dumas of Trinidad and Tobago, up next on Carib Nation.
When America wants to know what's happening in the Caribbean diaspora, there is one clear choice.
Hello, welcome to Carib Nation.
Both people inside and outside are
very excited about today's program.
Looking at you, I can tell that you have traveled the journey.
Ambassador Dumas, welcome to Carib Nation. This is a very interesting book, which I know should be of interest and educational, informational for most people in the Caribbean. You were assigned the position as advisor on Haiti to Secretary General Kofi Annan of the United Nations. What did you first think when you were appointed about Haiti, about that position and the job that you were going to undertake?
Well, first, thank you very much for having me on the show, and I hope that I can say some things that might be of interest to your viewers.
I'm sure.
I was sitting in my study in Tobago when the phone rang, and it was Kofi Annan on the line, and he said, I said, "Are you in office already? Because it's sort of early."
Yeah.
But he said no, he was calling from home, but he was a little concerned about the situation in Haiti at the time. This was February 2004, and we knew that sort of gangs were coming in from different parts and converging on the capital, and there was a fairly good understanding of what would happen if they ever arrived in the capital. And he said he was a little concerned. He wanted me to look at the situation. He wanted somebody to look at the situation, and he asked me whether I would be willing to do so. And I thought, because you have to reply immediately.
Yes, of course.
So I said, oh,
yeah.
What do I do? And I said, well, you know, Haiti is a CARICOM country. We're always complaining about things in Haiti and saying that we always describe Haiti as the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. That's the usual description of Haiti.
Yeah.
You don't hear anything else. You don't hear about the intellectuals. You don't hear about the culture. You just hear it's the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. And I thought, well, look, founding member of the United Nations, founding member of the Organization of American States, And I used to be ambassador to Washington and also to the OAS. I worked in CARICOM. I'd never been ambassador to the UN, but I had been on Trinidad and Tobago delegations. And I felt, well, let me give it a try. I think maybe I can do it. And if the Secretary General thinks I can do it,
Sure.
well, then who am I to fly in the face of his wisdom?
That's right.
So that's how it came about.
I see. Did you have any preconceived notions or ideas about what had happened and what was the situation with Jean-Bertrand Aristide?
I knew that the situation was not good. I mean, that we all knew.
Yeah.
We knew that things were disintegrating. We knew that the demonstrations, street demonstrations, had started the year before, towards the end of 2003, because one was seeing this on CNN and BBC and so on. And we knew, of course, that the economic situation, the socio-economic situation in Haiti was not good and has not been good for decades.
Long time, yeah.
I don't want to say centuries, but certainly decades. So we knew that the situation was less than pleasant. And that was another reason I felt perhaps if I can do something to assist, it might not be much. One would not have expected much in the brief time.
Situation, yeah.
But if I could do something to help a CARICOM country, then I would try to do so. As for preconceived notions, well, I assumed that the international and regional bodies, you know, the UN, the OAS, CARICOM, would be fully behind any effort to assist in the development of the Haitian people, assist in helping their welfare and their well-being. I took that for granted. I have to say that events as they turned out made me somewhat disillusioned about that particular aspect of things, and disappointed.
Yeah.
I felt that I came to realize that what one was talking about was structures, was templates. You had a box and you didn't necessarily think outside the box. It wasn't that you were incapable of thinking outside the box, it was simply that it was more comfortable to remain
Stay right there.
within the box. And where the UN was concerned, for instance, yes, you would go to the Security Council and resolutions are passed and this kind of thing. But what I found was missing, and I found this fairly quickly on arriving in Haiti and meeting with people, meeting with organizations, Chamber of Commerce, the business sector, NGOs, individuals, etc. And also, of course, liaising with the UN because I was working for the UN. What I quickly found was missing in all of this was the Haitian people. Now, how are you going to help a country unless you deal with the people of the country?
That's right.
Yes, there are institutions, judiciary, the police, the public service, and so on and so on and so on. But all of these institutions are composed of people.
People, of course.
They're not inanimate structures. And I found that there was a lot of concentration on these structures without recognizing necessarily that there were people who operated these structures and worked within these structures. CARICOM, for its part, spent a great deal of time talking about principles and was unprincipled to shove Aristide out. And I agree. He had been democratically elected, and CARICOM took the view that if someone has been democratically elected, you don't just shove the person out undemocratically.
Process, yeah.
I accept that. I'm a Democrat too. But there comes a point when a continued stand on principle, quote unquote, without too much reference to the welfare of the people that you say you are standing on principle for, becomes a little contradictory.
I see.
And after a time, what happened simply because the United Nations or the international community, of course, is unforgiving. I mean, they're not concerned too much with. Yes, you have your principles, but I mean, if you continue just talking about these principles, people will say, "What's wrong with them?"
Precisely. Yeah.
We have to move on.
An issue here.
Yeah, we have an issue here. So CARICOM, after a time, found itself, I regret to say, as a CARICOM citizen, found itself simply ignored by the international community.
Yeah. We're going to stop for a short break and come back and we talk some more about the United Nations CARICOM and some of the controversies and the dichotomy that you found behind the scenes. We'll be right back with more on Carib Nation with Ambassador Reginald Dumas.
When America wants to know what's happening in the Caribbean diaspora, there is one clear choice.
Hello, welcome to Carib Nation.
Both people inside and outside of
Very excited about today's program. Looking at you, I can tell that you have traveled the journey.
One television organization brings America close to the people, stories, and events that affects Caribbean life. Get close, get answers, get Carib Nation.
Welcome back to Carib Nation. We're talking with Ambassador Reginald Dumas about his term in Haiti as Special Advisor to the United Nations. You said early on that Jean-Bertrand Aristide did a first-class job of digging his own political grave. Talk a little bit about that and how you see that as playing a major role in what happened with him and how the CARICOM dealt with it as a result.
Well, CARICOM had come to understand even before 2004 that things were happening that were not necessarily in the best interest of Haiti. And Haiti had become a member of CARICOM, and there had been, at the various meetings of CARICOM, there had been positions put to Aristide that, look, we think that you should go this way or that way in order to benefit the country, to benefit your own position. And he would say, yes, I'm going to do that, but not necessarily, he didn't necessarily do anything about it. Things only started happening where CARICOM was concerned. I mean, a sort of major engagement in the second half of December 2003. That is also something that, as a nationalist, I'm disturbed by, because what happened was that our Prime Minister, the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, was in Washington on an official visit, and he was meeting with Condoleezza Rice, who was the Secretary of State at the time. Suddenly the door opens and in walks George Bush. Now, presidents don't drop in on secretaries of state or anybody else like that. It's all carefully choreographed. And Bush took the opportunity, indeed that's why he came, no doubt, to say to Manning, look, we're having a problem in Haiti. We would like CARICOM to play a greater role. And so things started happening. This is, I think, was the 15th of December, 16th of December of 2003. And before Christmas, all kinds of things had happened already just within those few days. And CARICOM was moving fast, and you say to yourself, why couldn't you have done that before?
Yeah.
Why couldn't you have done that before? Why do you have to wait until the American president asks you to do something before doing something? And then there was a flurry of meetings, in December, in January, into February. CARICOM meetings. P.J. Patterson, who was the Prime Minister of Jamaica at the time and also Chairman of CARICOM, played a major role in all these things, and they came up with a number of plans, etc., etc. First the CARICOM plan, a prior action plan, then an action plan, then they internationalized it and brought in Canada and the United States and the European Union and so on. And they felt that they were moving in the right direction. What obviously was happening that they didn't know, this is CARICOM, was that while they're doing their planning here and thinking they're working with the international community, other elements of the international community are working on a separate track without telling them anything. And that track is moving, the train on that track is moving a bit faster. And Aristide, and this is why I said that I thought that he had done a first-class job of digging his own political grave, Aristide was democratically elected, twice. And twice he's been forced out. Now, one would have thought that he might have learned from the first occasion that he had powerful enemies within Haiti and outside. And these people within Haiti were obviously linked with those outside. I think he meant well for Haiti and the Haitian masses. But the way he went about it
the right strategy,
allowed his policies to backfire on him.
You talked about culture, the importance of culture, and not only the international organizations, but financial institutions, governments, the international community. It's North versus South, North paradigm being placed on the South, and the South works in a different way altogether. Talk about the impact of this imposition of these formulas on cultures that have a totally different concept of how we obtain justice, what transparency means, and that sort of thing. How that plays into how people are developed.
Development is not, as you know, an easy thing at all. I think that too much in the South, as you mentioned there, the developing countries, there has been too much of an absorption of northern prejudices. And so you often find, unfortunately too often find, that the representatives of these countries at the political level or the bureaucratic level, but the main people, the leaders, so to speak, not only the political leaders, but the church leaders, the leaders, business leaders, etc., leaders in general, tend to internalize what they hear from the North to the detriment of their own countries. But they are benefiting, you see.
Yeah.
And the North understands that only too well.
Yes, yeah.
And so leads around a lot of these leaders, quote unquote, by their noses.
Exactly.
Gets them to accept all kinds of formulae for development, etc., which do not fit the particular paradigms of those countries. With the net result that you, as you know, in the international community, you had riots against the IMF-imposed programs and this kind of thing, because the leaders, and here is where perhaps Brazil and Argentina might be showing the way, in refusing to accept a lot of these programs that have come from the North, come from Washington in particular, that you must do this in the normal formula, cut your public service, pay less money, and so on. The fact that you're going to have social unrest after it doesn't concern them. They sit happily in Washington, in their air-conditioned or heated offices, as the case may be, depending on the weather, and write out these formulae for development. It is up to us, and this is why, whatever you say about Chavez, what Chavez is trying to do is come up with a different set of formulae for the developing world, starting with his part of the world, of course. And he's finding traction in this. Lula is with him there. Yes, I mean, Lula is not as well, he doesn't talk as much.
Not as outspoken, yes.
As Chavez. Cristina Fernandez de Kirchner in Argentina, President Fernandez, and so on, Evo Morales in Bolivia, etc. A new grouping is being formed, and it's now reaching across the water. Now, CARICOM is not yet too much in that. One or two members of CARICOM are. You might find the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, for instance, Ralph Gonzalez. To an extent, the President of Guyana. But by and large, the others are still very formula. Yes, firmly with the Western type formula. And so you're seeing contradictions now in CARICOM.
Yes.
You're bound to.
Yes.
You're bound to. Now they're papering over these things with nice wordy declarations and resolutions, etc., which, again, don't mean much.
That's the problem.
Because what happens to the people of CARICOM?
Precisely.
Where's your developmental model?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Only what comes from Washington?
Why haven't the Caribbean created their
I mean,
own?
that's right. You are intelligent enough. You're a lot
Yes.
of bright people in the Caribbean.
This is exactly the argument
Yeah.
we've been talking about, we've been hearing for so
Yeah.
many years. We have Nobel Prize winners, we
That's
have
right. That's right.
experts
That's right.
everywhere in the world.
Everywhere.
They're giving their skills to
That's right.
somebody else. Why
Yes.
can't they use them to create?
That's right.
Sit down, get serious, and create something
Exactly.
for us.
For us. Now, you say they came up with the CARICOM Single Market and Economy, CSME. Well, CSME isn't going anywhere.
Doing much. We stop for another break, and we'll be back to talk about what you suggest for CARICOM and for Haiti, for the United Nations. Stay tuned.
When America wants to know what's happening in the Caribbean diaspora, there is one clear choice.
Hello, welcome to Carib Nation.
Both people inside and outside are very
Very excited about today's program. Looking at you, I can tell that you have traveled the journey.
Welcome back to Carib Nation. I'm Doris Dean. In this last segment, we will continue our discussion with Ambassador Reginald Dumas about his book, An Encounter with Haiti. Ambassador, let's fast forward to what you think Haiti needs. We talked about what CARICOM can do, but what do you really see happening in the not too distant future, let's say 5 to 10 years?
Socioeconomic development, jobs, education, health, the basics of development. Now, Bill Clinton has recently taken a group of potential investors there. CARICOM doesn't, of course, have the kind of clout that Clinton does in terms of getting people in. We understand that. But CARICOM can help at a lower level, a few doctors to go in, a few nurses to go in, a few teachers to go in. You might say there's a language issue. Well, okay, you can get some people from St. Lucia and Dominica where they speak Creole.
Yeah.
It's not exactly the same Creole, but they can understand one another.
Right.
Lobbying, you can send a few, if you don't want to send up the prime ministers, get some ambassadors here to go, 4 or 5 ambassadors, and go and sit down with the World Bank and say, this is ridiculous.
Yeah,
After all, Haiti is one of you.
Exactly.
Haiti is a member of CARICOM.
exactly.
So, I would expect CARICOM, within its limited means, to be able to do a bit more in the area of development. I certainly would want to see the UN and the other international agencies focus on that. They tend to focus on structures again. Remember what I said earlier?
Right.
I mean, forgetting the people, and you can't forget the people.
Right.
You need to provide quick impact projects, which is something I argued for in 2004, 5 years ago, nearly 6 years ago now.
Yeah.
That you have these quick impact projects to give jobs quickly.
Right.
It mightn't be anything much, fixing potholes in
them
the road or
something, yeah.
clearing garbage or something. Give them something, give them some money so they can buy food,
Exactly.
give them some hope.
Precisely.
So, development, jobs, and not jobs necessarily, with the greatest respect, having people sewing shirts in factories. I mean, that's important. We all wear shirts and garments. But you have to raise the level as well. And here is where a proper education system and emphasis on education comes in handy.
Yeah. As you mentioned earlier, the importance of culture, paying attention
And
to
paying
the culture
attention to the
and
culture.
the people, because
Absolutely.
the way they do things, as you talked in the book about justice, how you achieve justice in the North is
That's
different
right.
to how
You achieve it in the South.
and you,
That's right.
as you rightly say in the book, the African culture is so strong in Haiti. One of the fascinating things about Haiti is that in the face of all of this, they are, and I have always said this, they are people from whom we should take an example about what nationhood means.
That's right. They are a nation.
They are really a nation.
They're a nation.
Very proud of their
Very
nation.
proud
They're
of
very
themselves, proud of their
people.
history,
Yeah.
proud of the fact that they fought successfully for their independence.
Right.
And they are a nation in a way that a lot of us
Yeah.
in the Caribbean and outside are
We
not.
haven't understood
We are
that.
states,
We haven't understood that meaning.
as distinct from nations.
Exactly, exactly. Yes. Obviously, you took copious notes.
I took copious notes. I never intended to write the book, actually.
Really?
Because I take copious notes in the various places I have been over the years. You know, I have a lot of notes, for instance, on Canada. I have a lot of notes on India, where I served.
Right.
And I started my usual thing, taking notes on Haiti. But then I realized that it was not enough
Yeah.
just to
Need
take notes.
Expand on that.
I had to expand because there were things there that were bothering me.
Yeah.
And the major thing, as I said,
Right.
was the absence of the people.
Well, that's a perfect note on which to end. Thank you so much. The book again.